How do you do? Due to the subject matter in this episode, parental guidance is suggested. A wise man once said, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." So, given that, it's safe to assume that until you know the truth, you would be bound, which was the case for the woman in our story. She spent decades looking for freedom and fulfillment that only the truth would deliver. Little did she know that the ultimate truth and more would come when she met a king, the King of Kings. And that's when her heart and mind and very life were unshackled.
Let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. That's a line from one of my favorite musicals. Music and theater have played a large part of my life for a long time. My earliest memories were of my mother, Rachel, and her huge record collection. My twin brother Mark and I would dance around our living room in Dallas, singing at the top of our voices. Our lives seemed pretty normal, but when I was 7, singing and dancing stopped. My dad suddenly left Mom for undeclared reasons.
He's getting an apartment in town. You'll see him every other weekend, but he won't be coming here anymore.
Don't worry, Mom. We'll take care of you, Mom.
Looking back, it doesn't seem that strange. My parents were second-generation Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jews. Despite this, or maybe because of it, they'd both become atheists. They couldn't see a God who allowed the Tsar and the Nazis to kill so many Jews. That and a secular lifestyle took away any concern about morality, at least for my dad. Mark and I would stay with him at his apartment, which included a series of glamorous girlfriends named Pat or Susie or whatever. It probably seemed fortunate at that time that within a year, Mom met, idolized, and married a blind PhD psychologist named Don, where they spoke their vows at a church that was, well, you'll see.
Loudly proclaiming the good news with the stories of real-life people, this is Unshackled, produced in Chicago by Pacific Garden Mission. Now for broadcast around the earth, here is episode number 3868 in the series Unshackled, a program that makes you face yourself and think.
Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls.
Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf.
Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone, even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music.
Their wedding was at a Unitarian church, and all their vows were from Khalil Gibran's book, The Prophet. Kinda crazy, since Don, like my dad, was a hardcore atheist. This was the extent of my parents' spiritual message to me.
Let me help you, Don. You're going to trip on something.
I have a pretty good sense of the space. Being blind is less of a problem than you'd think.
It's cool that they make talking books for you, too. I like listening to your collection.
What do you like better, science fiction or westerns?
I like watching musicals.
Well, I like listening to musicals. Seeing them, not so much.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to...
It's okay, Abby. Now, go get your mom. I need another glass of whiskey.
Okay.
From a very young age, the woman in our story searched for love and acceptance. We'll show you where that led in this part 1 of the story of Abby Greenwald-Waterland, right now on Unshackled.
When I was 10, we moved to Seattle, where my mom got a job as a counselor with Boeing, and Don was hired as the director of a center for the blind. Mom also helped out directing and acting in the employee musicals. I even got my first chorus position in Annie, Get Your Gun. That part of life was pretty good. Living with my 17-year-old stepbrother, who was also named Mark, was more of a problem. They had to call my twin Marcus to separate their identities.
What is it, Abby? What's wrong?
Oh, Mom, can you keep Mark away from me?
Your brother or your stepbrother?
Don's Mark.
What's wrong, honey?
I don't want him to come near me.
Did he do something? Abby, did he do something to you?
He touches me. I don't like it.
I'll take care of that.
And he said...
What did he say? Abby, what did he say to you?
He told me I would lose my virginity before I was 16.
Mom took care of Mark, and he went off to join the army. He spent a few years in Germany before coming back and disappearing into the Venice Beach drug scene. The casual attitude my family had towards sexuality didn't help at all. Mom even helped blind Don see how my teenage body was developing. It was humiliating and confusingly hypocritical, since as psychologists they should have known better. But it was also a big part of what was happening in the 1960s. Hand in hand with the promiscuity were the suspect spiritual leaders that were popping up with a strange regularity.
Donna! Hey, Donna!
Hey, yourself, Abs. What's going on?
I finished your book, but I was wondering if I could hang on to it. You know, read it again.
The book on astral projection? Sure, why not?
Thanks. I'm trying to understand it.
It's cool that you're trying to understand yourself. You should try past life regression.
Past what? What?
It's all about who you were in another life before this one. Like, I was Marie Antoinette in a previous life.
You were? How'd you find that out?
I got hypnotized, and it was all buried in my subconscious. The doctor told me what I told him after I woke up.
It was a doctor?
Something like that. Anyways, I was the Queen of France.
Wow, that's pretty exciting. Didn't she get her head cut off?
I kept reading books about spiritual things, but being raised by atheists kept me from looking at anything remotely to do with the Bible. In their eyes, anything would have been better than being a Christian. Before Mark had joined the army, he was a bit of a rebel. He had Playboy pinups all over his walls, he chain smoked, stole cars, and dropped out of high school. All that would have been preferable to following Jesus. The healthiest preoccupation I had was singing, acting, and playing the flute. Music still meant a lot to me. It meant a lot more to me when I got to play in the youth symphony with Scott, the biggest crush of my teen years.
I think you had the right idea playing the flute, Abby.
You don't like your French horn?
It's fine, but it's a lot bigger and heavier than a flute. It's a pain to carry around.
Then set it down. We can talk for a bit if you want.
Or we could go in the park and smooch until our rides get here.
Really? You want to kiss me?
Is there something about you I need to know?
No.
You're not going to turn into the creature from the Black Lagoon or something, are you?
No. Only you're 16.
How old are you?
14.
Huh. Well, I don't care. It's not a problem for you, is it?
No. I mean, no.
Good. Come on.
You're late tonight, Abby.
I was talking with a friend.
Does this friend have a name?
I was with Scott, the French horn player.
Scott. The one you thought was cute.
He is cute, Mom. Mom, how do you know when you're in love?
Abby, don't tell me you think you're in love with Scott.
I'm just asking.
And I'm just telling you, you're not in love with him.
How do you know?
I know. I thought I was in love with your father, but it wasn't real. He said he loved me too, but he clearly didn't.
Maybe it's different with Scott and me.
Scott and you? What did you do? What did you do?
We kissed, Mom. We just kissed. It was nice.
He kissed you?
We kissed each other. He kind of tasted like corn chips.
What?
We French kissed. It was sweet.
You little...
We didn't do anything else. We just kissed.
I didn't raise you to be a slut. I don't want you to see him again.
What?
You heard me, Abby. No more.
What's the big deal?
No more.
Something seemed to change between me and my mom around this time. We didn't have the same relationship we had before. She was probably, like so many parents around that time, thought that her kid was a lost soul. The only time I had fun with her was when we would perform in musicals together, like when she played Golda and I played Huddle in Fiddler on the Roof. After age 14, it was the only time I felt any real acceptance and appreciation from her. When I was 17, I was raped by a 25-year-old University of Washington student. I ran home to Mom, but didn't get the response I expected.
Well, everything has changed for you now, Abby.
I didn't do anything to make him do this.
No, but it happened, and we can't change that.
I didn't deserve this.
None of us deserve what we get in life. That's just the way it is, and there's nothing we can do about it.
This is life?
Afraid so, kiddo. I'm afraid so.
My teenage years had been pretty traumatic for me. My relationship with my mom was hard, to say the least. She assumed I was sexually active, since I had tried pot and LSD once or twice, but I'd actually been a virgin when I was raped. I'd been looking for peace in all kinds of things, but it was all stuff like Ouija boards, astral projection, bogus spirituality, and teachers like Fritz Perls. If someone had given me a Bible, I would have thrown it back in their face. Like so many kids in those days, I figured I'd find the answers in San Francisco, California. So when I graduated high school, I packed up my stuff, moved to that city by the bay, worked as a waitress, and eventually enrolled in San Francisco State University to finish my BA in theater arts.
San Francisco is far out.
It's crazy, Donna. Did you ever imagine San Francisco would be as cool as this?
Seattle was groovy, but this is the end, friend.
This feels like a new beginning to me. I can be anything I want now that I'm away from home.
There's a pretty swinging theater scene here, Abs. I can see you're doing really well.
Believe it, I'm gonna give it a try, as much as my college schedule would let me.
I think you're taking school a bit more serious than me.
That's where we're gonna meet people. People we can party with.
And boys we can hook up with.
I'm not gonna turn them away if we do.
It didn't take long to get connected to the party scene in San Francisco and the whole Bay Area. At times it seemed like the whole city was one big party.
Hey girl, you want to get high?
What? Right here in the library?
No, we can go back to my place if you want. Bring a friend. There's plenty to go around.
San Francisco in the 1960s and 70s was everything you've heard about, and more, especially if you were involved in the arts like I was. Theater and music just opened doors to more hedonistic behavior, but that lifestyle was fraught with rejection, confusion, and humiliation for me.
So, Abby, what do you say we move this party to the bedroom?
Come on, Getty. That's all we ever do. Get high and...
Oh, make love.
You don't love me, man. I'm pretty sure I don't love you. I barely know anything about you.
That's what it's all about, baby. Free love. That's what we're all about.
I don't think so, man. I'm an artist, too. And a woman. Did you ever think I might want a man I can count on for more than scoring pot? Someday I might want to get married. Have kids.
No. That's too heavy for me, baby. Don't you see the world is changing? I mean, you heard the Beatles. All you need is love.
Yeah, then they broke up.
It was business that broke them up. And Yoko, they should have just stuck to music.
I don't know. Not saying I'm not having a good time, but some teeny tiny part of me thinks I want more. And man, that teeny tiny part feels like it's getting bigger.
Yeah, well, you better keep that under your hat, baby. Nobody wants a woman who's gonna be a weight around their neck. Aquarius is coming, and you better get with it. So, are we going to bed or what?
The whole free love thing was making me feel dirty and demeaned, and it was everywhere. School, the restaurant I worked at. The San Francisco theater scene was mostly homosexual, but it was always right in your face. And if that wasn't enough, I was pretty quickly worn out by the cutthroat competition to get cast. Once I graduated, I decided to move from performing into teaching. But even that didn't protect me from making some bad decisions. I hooked up with guys who seemed okay at first. It turned out to be all wrong. In retrospect, it isn't surprising that I spent both my 25th and 26th birthdays at a clinic terminating pregnancies, with Mom holding my hand. But then, at a point when I was feeling pretty low, I met a man who would change my life.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know there was anybody in this practice room.
No problem.
I'll wait in the hallway.
You don't have to. I'm just riffing a bit. I can wrap it up.
You make it look so easy.
The bass comes easy to me. Been playing for a lot of years.
What are you doing at a jazz flute workshop?
Maybe I'm, here to meet you.
I'm Abby.
Hello, Abby. I'm Jack Harris.
Glad to meet you, Jack.
Likewise. Listen, I was kind of hanging out here in this room. Are you okay if I stay a bit longer?
Sure, I suppose. Are you hiding from someone?
I guess I'm hiding from everyone. I don't like people all that much.
Do you want me to leave you alone?
No, you're okay. In fact, I don't know why, but this is the best conversation I've had in a long time.
Well, good.
I couldn't have known at our first meeting that Jack Harris was going to play such an important part in my life. He rescued me from my minimum wage job and arranged for me to be a flute and voice teacher, something very near to my heart. We didn't really use the word introvert in those days, but that's what he was. He had complete disdain for commercial middle American places like Disneyland, but he begged me to help him get to know other people. Before long, it seemed like he was ready to mix with more people.
Abby, you're not gonna believe this.
What?
You and I are gonna go on tour.
On tour? As what?
Well, I'm gonna go on tour as a bass player in a trio, backing up, ta-da, Jon Hendricks.
Jon Hendricks, the jazz vocalist?
Yeah, and they said you can come along. They said you can even play a flute solo in the show. How cool is that?
That is pretty cool.
Turned out it wasn't very cool. The Hendricks family stayed in some pretty swanky places, but we musicians slept in some pretty desperate hotels. I was a classical flute player, so my flute solo wasn't what the audience wanted at a jazz show. I tried to adapt, but I don't think anyone was completely satisfied. Probably just to keep me busy, I was asked to homeschool the Hendricks' 13-year-old daughter, but that didn't last long.
Jack?
What is it, doll?
I don't know how much longer I can do this.
Do what?
Stick with the tour. It's not fun for me.
What do you want to do?
I don't know. I want to be with you, but we don't do anything. We don't see the cities we're in. We just stay in the hotel rooms.
You've been really helpful to all of us.
I don't want to be a homeschool teacher to someone else's kids. I want to be with you. I want us to be more of a couple.
I don't know how we could be more of a couple.
Hey, you ever thought that we could maybe get married?
Look, there's only a few weeks left on the tour. When we get home, we'll talk about that stuff, okay? The band should be back from the movies by now. I'm gonna head down to the club and meet them. Okay?
Sure.
Somehow I survived the loneliness I felt on that tour, but my desire for a show business career was diminishing day by day. Sadly, so were my hopes that Jack and I would get married and start a family. We returned to the San Francisco Bay Area, where we lived together for another couple years, and probably to both our surprise, we did get married. That was nice, but it didn't solve every problem.
Does your jaw hurt again?
It hurts still.
That doctor said that reconstructive surgery would help. You gonna do it?
Oh, sure, we can probably afford reconstructive surgery.
I don't know what to tell you, Abby. If the pot isn't helping with the pain...
Tired of smoking grass for everything. It doesn't help my jaw. It doesn't help my depression. It doesn't help with our lovemaking.
I'm not sure I agree with you there.
Thanks, Jack. That makes me feel great.
I'll pay for it, Abby. Don't worry about the cost.
I don't know, Mom. It sounds pretty weird.
I have known about LifeSpring for a while now. It really helps people get centered.
They're the ones that say there is no hope, right?
There's no hope on our own. But in a large group...
How is that supposed to help me with temporomandibular joint pain? I mean, this is a real physical problem, not some crazy thing I'm imagining.
It's all mind over matter, isn't it? The whole country is falling apart, but if we can get as many people enrolled in the program as we can, we might be able to make some serious changes.
Remarkably, my jaw pain went away for 20 years from the first training of LifeSpring, which was one of the more popular personal growth programs of the 1970s and 1980s. Most of it involved being shouted at and humiliated by the instructors, and then trying to get more people to join the program. It was truly bizarre, the way the leaders of the second training would get out in front of our group of 100 people, scream at us and berate us, then tell us to get out there and recruit more followers. Whatever the reason, my jaw pain disappeared, but the enlightenment I received from LifeSpring proved to be short-lived. Then something happened that would change my life in a huge way. Are you ready to go, Jack?
Ready to go where?
Well, we were going to go to Donna's for the Passover Seder.
Yeah, I don't want to go.
What? Why not?
Why would I?
We were talking about checking out our Jewish history, remember? Neither of us knows anything about our own people.
So?
Jack, you told me that your family were Jews from Russia and Hungary, just like mine.
They were, but that doesn't make me want to look into their religious stuff. I mean, it didn't do them any good, did it? All it gave them was grief. Living in shtetls and trying to survive the pogroms. Yeah, no thanks.
I went to the Seder without him. I thought it was neat, reenacting again our history and what the different foods meant. I really identified with the bitter herbs, which symbolized the bitterness of the Jewish slavery in Egypt, since my life had been no great joyful experience either. I have to say, I was impressed with all the thought that went into the whole shindig.
Hi there. It was Abby, right?
Yes, but I don't remember your name.
Bob Wells. I was sitting over at the other end of the table. Was this your first Passover Seder?
It was, yeah. I mean, I'm Jewish, but my parents were atheists, so we rarely celebrated our heritage. And if we did, it was never with a deep connection to God. The Seders, the tent thingies.
The tent thingies? You really don't know our history, do you?
I couldn't even tell you who that guy was that they poured the wine for.
Elijah. He was pretty important. Well, he is pretty important. Is your husband Jewish?
Yes, by blood, but he's not religious either. What is it you do, Bob?
I'm just finishing veterinarian school.
This gorgeous Jewish guy suddenly put his arm around me, and I melted into the floor. Someone asked, "Are you together?" And Bob said, "Yes." I was desperate for male attention, and both of us were being very flirtatious. Bob and I went to his place, and though infatuated, nothing happened because we were just friends. Still, when I brought him home to meet Jack, it didn't go well. Jack, this is Bob Wells, the friend I told you about.
Oh, nice to meet you, Jack. Abby's told me a lot about you.
Oh, yeah? We're all going to be one big, happy group of swinging friends, huh?
No, Jack, I never thought anything like that.
That's not at all what was on my mind.
No? Well, maybe you don't know Abby as well as you thought.
This is clearly a bad time.
Let me walk you out, Bob.
Look, man, I'm sorry if there was a misunderstanding.
What has gotten into you, Jack? What's this?
Sign it.
Sign what? What is this?
Just a document that says you won't ever ask me for anything.
What do you mean? What would I ask you for?
Doesn't matter. You're not going to get anything. Once this divorce is final, you get squat.
Divorce? Why divorce? You're divorcing me because I brought a friend home for you to meet?
Friend? You think it's okay to bring men back to your house? We've been married for 2 years and you bring other men back to our house?
Jack, it's not what you think.
Just sign it, Abby. You know this is done. This marriage has been a joke since... always.
What happens if I sign this?
You won't ask me for anything.
I never had anything. I don't have anything now. No stuff. No love. Give me a pen. I signed his paper knowing I was wrong somehow. I felt crushed and desperate. I had believed that Jack was my best hope for happiness when I had met him. But in a moment, it all came crashing down, and I had to admit to myself that it wasn't a surprise. I called my dad to tell him what happened, how I had never felt romantic feelings for Jack. He was more like a friend or a brother. I now understood my dad's same feelings for my mother. He said, "See," as if to say, "I told you so." A little while later, it was my mother, the last person I expected to help, who actually did help.
Am I going to see you when you come to Seattle?
I don't know, Mom. I'm helping my friend Karen move. She wants to get her kids out of the wacky Bay Area.
I'll get to see you, though, won't I?
Sure.
You know, you've moved around quite a few times since you and Jack divorced. Why don't you move back to Seattle yourself? You can get a fresh start.
I don't know.
You can live with Don and me until you get on your feet.
Living with Don isn't an answer to my problems.
I just don't think San Francisco is the place for you, Abby. Seattle is much more normal.
I don't know, Mom.
Come home, honey. We'll take care of you.
And so I decided to move back north to Seattle. My twin brother Mark came to San Francisco and helped me pack up. I had my people in Seattle. It seemed like a good idea. Little did I know, things were about to get even darker.
We reached the end of our episode, but Abby Greenwald-Waterland's story is just beginning. Like many people, she had years of struggle before surrendering to the arms of her loving Savior. How that blessed event happened is something we'll discover in our next episode. I hope you'll tune in. Listening friend, is something missing in your life and you want to make a change? Are you seeking the truth and freedom that Abby was seeking? That truth and freedom can only be found in the saving love and forgiveness of the Lord Jesus Christ. Do you have a relationship with the Jesus of the Bible? You can start one right now. Whatever you've done, no matter where you are, it will be the most important decision you will ever make. If you need help with this, we encourage you to call 1-888-NEED-HIM. Pacific Garden Mission desires to meet the holistic needs of each individual. If you are homeless and need help getting back on your feet, you're welcome to come to Pacific Garden Mission, 1458 South Canal Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60607. This is program number 3868. Heard in part 1 of the true story of Abby Greenwald-Waterland were Marcy Mancati, Anna Maria Alvarez, Adam Sweeters, Ryan Kitley, and Gary Bricketto. Original music, Don Badorf. Sound effects, Duncan Burkett. Audio engineer, David Pierczynski. Script, Darby Kern. Unshackled is produced by Pacific Garden Mission to show through true stories that if your life is empty, it can be filled to overflowing. Please write today or reach out to us on social media. Connecting with you means a great deal to us. You can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube at Unshackled PGM. So until next time, unless our Lord returns before then. I'm Timothy Gregory, reminding you that the doors to Pacific Garden Mission are open night and day. Thanks for listening, and may God bless you.